Okay, so the title of this video is going to be $50 million brand owner keeps it real for X amount of minutes, however long I decide to yap on for. I'm not sure yet how long that will go. But even from that title, you guys probably all think, wow, this guy must have it figured out. He's running, $50 million e-commerce brands. He must have everything set. And, it's quite the opposite, funny enough, because, I feel just as stressed as I ever have felt. I feel the same now as I did when I didn't have any traction, had no momentum, had no business. It's just a different set of problems that I'm now currently dealing with. And keeping it real with you guys, what I've come to the conclusion is that never really changes, because the thing is, your problems become bigger but different, and one wrong move, even at the stage that I'm at, could set things back tenfold, or even potentially destroy a business, right? And, hopefully none of that happens, but I just want you guys to understand that whatever layer you're at, you're only a few steps back from being back to square one. And, thankfully we're getting a lot of traction. My goal this year is to grow to $100 million per year in sales. Right now we run a portfolio of brands that are around $30 million a year in sales. So what I want to, I'll come back to that point at the end of this, where I want to tell you guys kind of how I'm looking at it for, the problems that I'm facing. But, I want to just, go in when you're first starting out a store, let's just say, when you're trying to get that initial traction, you just have no knowledge whatsoever. Your gap is just, it's honestly, in a lot of ways, it's easier because there's so much access to information, especially at that early stage. You can find everything you need to know about how to set up a website, how to launch Facebook ads, how to make creatives. And you just have a information deficiency at that early stage, where if you can just access that information and consume it and actually apply it and consistently do that, you're going to be successful. I think where things start to become different, and a different set of challenges, not harder, because honestly, I think that's probably the hardest part, to be honest, because 99% of people aren't going to ever do that and get enough momentum to make something work. But then let's say you get up to $100,000 a month in sales. Now your set of problems will probably be different. You're probably going to have payment processor holds and bans that you have to try to figure out. You're probably going to have to figure out how to go multi-channel and how to scale in different, approaches. You're probably going to have to, just understand things that you didn't even know you needed to understand, is kind of the point there, right? And that's kind of the roadmap of going from 100,000 to $1 million a month. But of course, it's another set of problems, and it becomes extremely stressful. You're going to have times where you have no access to money. You have to pay your employees. You have to, keep your business afloat, pay for your ads. And, you're going to come to face to the wall where things are going to look like there's no way out. You're stuck in a corner and you have to figure things out. And that's going to happen multiple times. I know it's happened for me and everyone else that's been on this journey to getting to, $1 million a month and beyond that. It's part of the nature of business, right? And, at the stage where I'm at, where we're going from multiple millions a month and trying to get to $10 million a month and beyond that, the problems that I'm facing now, it's a whole new set of challenges that I've never experienced before. It's, I have to learn how to master delegation. I have to stop being in the weeds of things and understanding how to take what I'm doing, systematize that, and get other people to do it just as effectively as me. I have to learn how to bring talent in that's more effective than me, be able to manage talent across different departments, make everything work, and try to turn my business into something that can be autonomous and thus more scalable. It's a whole different set of challenges, because for me, I've always been a marketer. I've been a direct response marketer. I understand how to do the actual operations of marketing and how to do that in the trenches. So shifting my whole strategic outlook to understanding how to then be able to transfer my skill set over to other people and be able to effectively manage people together, it's something that it's something I've been working at for years now, but it's something that I've definitely not mastered, and something that I'm continuously trying to get better at every single day. And although it's the same, it's not the same thing as like the pressure you feel when you're trying to make it. still being stuck at this point, because now it's, been around 2 years where I've been hovering at, the 20 to $30 million a year range. And I've just been kind of stuck at this ceiling trying to get to the 9-figure a year mark. So being stagnant is really miserable, to be honest. You don't feel like you're making the progress that you want to be making. And when you feel stuck, I think it's the same feeling of stuck that you feel in those early stages, even though obviously the money situation is different. Obviously, thankfully and thank God I'm more comfortable. It's still, I think, the feeling of not being content. And I think that leads to another point where what I've realized is not being content is what makes you feel not as good inside. I don't want to say miserable, but it makes you feel worse internally. But it's also the same thing that drives you to being successful. Because if you were content and if you were satisfied with where you're at, that's a lot of times where I think people just kind of hover in that area and are okay with it. They're good with making, they're making good money, making a good living, and they're fine with it. But if you're not content with where you're at and you're trying to grow further, that always will put more stress on you, because there's going to be knowledge gaps that you don't yet understand that you have to go and learn while trying to maintain what you're already doing, which, instantly is going to put more pressure on you to try to understand and grow more and not be satisfied with where you're at to try to get to that next phase. So that feeling is exactly what I think allows you to be successful. And it's interesting because, the same thing that kind of is making you miserable is also the thing that is going to make you and your future self successful. So what I've come to shift my mindset and, how I've been able to maintain, I guess, sanity, in this whole process of, working my ass off every single day while things are, on paper already, pretty good, but still trying to push further and get to that next level, is, I think, the North Star vision. And I think being very aligned with what you're building towards, because for me, it feels very clear with what I want, where I want to be in the next 3 years. In the next 3 to 5 years, I would say I have a lot of clarity of what I want to be doing and where I want to be. So because I have that clarity of where I want to be, I know that what I'm working towards is for a brighter future, right, than where I'm at now. And that future excites me a lot. So I want to keep on growing and keep on pushing myself there. In terms of the day-to-day, because I'm not content with where I'm currently at, I think where I've shifted my mind, and I think this is cliche, and I know Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, but I think it's so true, so I want to tap into it, where it's falling a lot more in love with the process and the inputs that you're doing. And I think the way that you can start to shift that is you have to learn delegation and ruthlessly delegate what you're not good at and also what doesn't bring you energy. So as you start to take a lot of that off of your plate and you're focused on your zone of genius where you can continue to double down on the things you love and start to unlock new skill sets within that, you have to fall in love with that process. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to continue to push yourself. If you don't love the actual acts of work that you're doing, it's going to be very hard to level up and get to the next level, because there's going to be, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, there's so many new things that you have to learn in the process to be able to get to that next phase. And this goes, whatever step of your journey you're at, whether you're just getting started, again, it might be more simple and straightforward things that you need to learn, but again, you still have to learn all that stuff. You still have to take the time to understand and master it and put those things forward and take action and apply all of it to push yourself forward, right? And if that future looks brighter than where you are right now, then you're not content with your current situation and you want to grow there, right? And that is kind of the question that you have to ask yourself with each level, because there becomes a point where, say you're doing billions of dollars a year in sales, I think it becomes a question of, do you want to keep on doing that? Are you content with where you are, or do you want to keep on pushing this thing further? And I think the only reason why at that level you want to push things further is because you have a really strong mission and North Star of where you want to go to, where you see that future very clearly of what the potential is of what this can be. And I think it becomes a lot less money driven, a lot more impact driven, especially the more you start to level up. And I'm not at a point yet where I can say I'm, if I'm being honest with you guys, where everything is all impact driven. Of course, a lot of my ambition right now is monetary, and it's about the money that I can make, but it's not about the money itself. I kind of view money as a scorecard. I look at money as, really just a way to keep track of where I'm at in this game, and also the impact that I know that I can make with the money that I can make. So I think that money directly ties into the things that you can do. So I think that if I want to do good in the world, having more money will allow me to make a bigger impact. I think that there's also one-to-one impact. I don't think money is the only way. Like, I think if I wanted to just, be fully impactful, then, why not just work, at an orphanage and, help kids, or, work and volunteer my time, So there's a lot of things I can do on a one-to-one basis, but I think I'm more driven by massive impact in that sense with what I can do from a monetary perspective. So I think that's one thing that really pushes me forward, just from like making money. And I also know that for the projects that I want to do internally and for the things that I want to do in the future, I'm going to need to have a lot of money. I don't want to have a lot of money to buy private jets or, buy all of these materialistic stuff. I think, of course, that will come, but that's not what drives me. What drives me is more so the amount of businesses that I can operate, the teams that I can build, the projects that I can dive into. Like, that's really what drives me from a business standpoint of what I can do with more money. So, that's outside of just the businesses that I'm growing. That's more from like a perspective of growing and making money. And sorry, I'm going on a tangent. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but hopefully this is interesting. If you're still watching, hopefully it's been worthwhile, because I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But I guess to just tie this all together and leave you guys with something, I guess, actionable over here, is I think just from my perspective, right, of growing to the level that I'm at, and it's still tiny, right? I know people that are doing $10 million a month already. I know people that are actually billionaires, right? So for where I'm at on that spectrum, it's pebbles, right? But I think for a lot of you guys, I'm ahead of you. And I think for those people, I want you to understand that don't think that by getting to this level, it's just going to solve all your problems, because it's not. It's really the same set of problems. And I think from an emotional state, you're going to be in a very similar emotional perspective, if not even more stressed than you were before, because now you have payroll, you have, employees that you have to cover. One fuck up and, a lot of things can crumble, and the, ripple effect of that is much greater and much bigger. So the pressure only amplifies and increases. So don't think that by becoming more successful, it's going to solve your problems. And I'm also saying this to myself, right? Because the goal of being at $100 million a year, when I think about that, it's like, oh, that's going to solve a lot of problems. But reality is, it doesn't actually solve anything. It's just a different set of problems that you're going to incur, right? And I think that I want you guys to remember that whatever stage you're at, it doesn't really matter, because emotionally, it's all going to be balanced out. Like, the problems will be different, and maybe it's not going to be as severe as in the beginning, where you're trying to put food on the table, right? And trying to make a living and trying to quit your job. Obviously, that pressure is immense. But the point is, the pressure, is more or less the same as you go. It's just different problem. So that's number one. Number two is, I think the more successful you become, the easier it is to then become stagnant and then, stop working, because what I said, it's the whole balance of driving further is usually what can cause the misery, right? Because you're not content with where you're at. So is there a way to be content and try to drive further? I don't really think so, but I think what you can become content with is falling in love with the process. So I think that's not something that you can ever start too early. So start that now. Like, start the process of finding what you love in this whole journey now. The earlier the better. And even if you're at my level or above me, hopefully you can take something away from this as well, where I think just being in love with the actual work that drives you and lights you up, and ruthlessly taking away whatever that isn't. Like, not just what you're best at or what you think is the highest leverage in the business, because I think it's a combination of finding what you actually love to do with where you can also make the biggest impact. And that's how I've tried to think about things. And everything else I've really tried to take off of my plate, so that even with the things that I'm stressed at least I'm doing things that I actually love and enjoy doing every single day. And I'm challenging myself in a way where it's almost like a hobby, right? It's like I'm pushing myself forward every single day, but I'm pushing myself with stuff that I actually love and enjoy doing in that whole process. So I think that no matter where you're at, start to understand that. And if you don't have the resources to delegate, at least start to understand and identify what those things are, so that you can start to delegate based on things that are lower leverage, in the sense of not just, tasks in the business, but also energy drainers for you. So I think overall, just to summarize on all this, whatever stage you're at, it's going to more or less be the same set of challenges. So don't think that by getting to that next goal, you're going to solve any problems, because I've hit a lot of goals. My first goal when I first started this was to get to $100,000 a month. Now I'm doing $100,000 a day. And I can tell you that I don't feel that much different when I was doing $100,000 a month versus $100,000 a day. It's pretty similar from like a mental standpoint. I'm still set with, very similar sets of challenges, completely different in terms of what I'm trying to conquer, but very similar in terms of how I feel mentally. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you have to fall in love with the process and have to have a really strong vision of where you're going towards. If you at some point, if you don't really clarify where you're going to and you just keep on working, because that can get you momentum in the beginning of just, you hate your current position so much that you want to just work, to get out of where you're at. But if you don't create a really strong, powerful North Star, the second you start making a little bit of money, you're not going to want to go further. So your future has to be strong enough where it's worth, bearing the feeling of not being content of where you're at to keep on pushing towards that mission, because that future is so bright. So I think that's probably point number 2. And point number 3 is, again, the only way you're going to not lose yourself in the process and actually, find happiness and joy every single day when you're going to work is by shifting from only focusing on that goal to being okay with focusing on the inputs every single day, and just getting a little bit better every single day, learning a lot, and by doing the stuff that you love and getting better at those things. So I think it's 3 points overall that we can take away from that, and hopefully that gives you guys something to apply. So I guess this video, it's going to end up being about 18 minutes. I hope everyone that watch it, no matter if you're just getting started, at the same level as me, above me, could take something away from this. And please comment below with any questions you guys have, any comments that you guys have, and I want to know what you guys want to hear for the next video. So thanks for tuning in, and appreciate it, guys.